Hi, I'm Eve, and this is my senior Sage. I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I learned in my time here at Shady Side. Number 1, rejection letters make great room decor. I promised my mom I'd open my senior Sage with this rejection letter. I think the letterhead is really pretty, and the font is pretty decent. It's Georgia, and I prefer Times New Roman, but I can only ask so much of Columbia. I remember opening this letter because I was across the country at the time, sitting in an empty living room with Annabelle Everett. I read it, shrugged, and hit Command-P on my laptop. My walls were bare, and I'd been looking for something nice to spice them up, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity. This was my first real rejection. Yeah, maybe you get told your US paper idea isn't good enough, or maybe Giant Eagle never calls you back after you send in 4 separate applications to be a cashier there. But you never experience that overwhelmingly humbling feeling of rejection until you undergo the famed college process. It's the first time that you throw yourself completely vulnerable at something just to be told that it doesn't want anything to do with you. It seems that you're almost destined to wallow in pits of despair and convince yourself that you will never amount to anything. But sometimes the best thing you can do is hang the letter on the edge of your chalkboard and admire the color blue that they use to print the logo at the top. I wish each and every one of you a rejection, because taking a risk that's betting on yourself is always a good risk to take. If you don't get the luxury of experiencing it during college application season like I did, I'm sure you'll encounter it quite a few more times in the rest of your life. And I urge you to print out a few of those rejections that you're destined to find, hang them in the corner of your room, and smile. And wear them with pride, because they're evidence that you were daring enough to try. Number 2. Ask your Penndot worker about his lanyard. I dare make the claim that no one in my grade wanted their license as desperately as I did in February of 2020. As an August birthday, driving was a privilege I could not enjoy until I prepared to enter the spring of my junior year, which came with its own set of unpredictable feats. I had sat in that DMV at 8:30 a.m. on my 16th birthday to receive my permit and practiced parallel parking nearly every Sunday in the same DMV parking lot for the following 6 months. I was more ready for this 3-step turn than I had been for anything else in my life. I nervously struck up conversation with my test administrator because I noticed the US Army lanyard around his neck. I'd grown up watching my parents, both veterans, strike up conversation with almost anyone donning a West Point sweatshirt or an Army hat, so I did the same. We sat in my car for 15 minutes before beginning the test, talking about his 20 years of service, his deployments, and his philosophy for joining the Army. He continued to talk between asking me to turn on my headlights and windshield wipers. Seconds later, I failed the parallel parking portion entirely, completely missed the spot. But the instructor turned to me and sighed, and he told me to try again. That's the story of how I got my license on the first try. Perhaps sometimes you'll be the driving instructor, granting a moment of forgiveness to someone's mistake. Other times you'll be the 16-year-old girl, completely undeserving and astonished at a second chance on a government-administered test. But being nice to people pays off. If you take a moment every now and then to ask your Penndot worker or teacher or classmate or coach or stranger or cashier or waitress a question about their day or their lanyard or the sweatshirt they're wearing or the logo on their hat, you might get more than just insight into someone's life. You might gain a new friendship or an enlightening bit of knowledge or a driver's license. Number 3, dare to suck at something. I applied to Shady Side in July of 2018, about a month before I was hoping to start here as a sophomore. I remember sitting in a dark wood chair in a side room in Bayard and being presented with a list of fall sports I could participate in. Having no prior experience in any of them, and only knowing one person at this entire school, Melissa Riggins, who was on the soccer team, I chose girls soccer on somewhat of a whim. On the first day of practice, I sat with the other new student, Arent Canning, quietly on the bench in my formal dress through the entire practice. And I think it was about a week until I even owned a pair of cleats or shin guards, and another year until I bought my first soccer ball. I had no agility, no foot skills, and 0 coordination. By the fall of my senior year, you could argue that I still had none of those things, but at least now I owned a pair of proper shoes and protective equipment. In my 3 years at Shady Side, soccer was one of the most important pieces of shaping who I am. Not because I was good in any capacity. It was quite the opposite, actually. It was the fact that I was a senior asking freshmen for tips on my footwork and a captain that still couldn't kick with my left foot that made it so influential. It's hard to be good at something, but I'd argue that sometimes it's even harder to be bad. In a school where it can seem like everyone is good at a lot of things they do and we're challenged to perform at the highest level of everything we try, it's admirable and daring to throw yourself at something you've never done, something you are notably unskilled at, something you are still learning the rules to even after your last season is over. It's hard not to get something on your first try, or second, or third. It is hard to ask an underclassman for help. It is hard to lead a team in a sport you are no more than a novice in. But, just like the rejection letter in my room, it is a reminder of the chances I was willing to take, a reminder of the refreshing joy found in sucking at things. So, audition for the musical even if you don't have the first clue about singing. Take a math class that doesn't come naturally to you at all. Join more poker games knowing you can't keep a straight face. Offer to translate a paragraph in the middle of German class that you can't read a single word of. Be bad at things. In these 4 years, take every single chance to do the things you know you'll probably suck at. Who knows, the next person who joins girls soccer on a whim might go D1. Number 4, Apple Maps aren't always right. In fact, there are quite a few times they've been wrong, including my first day of junior year when I was 30 minutes late because we took the suggested shortcut in the opposite direction of school. But more recently, they've been wrong when I get in the car and plug in my phone and that stupid Maps app comes up on the CarPlay and suggests the fastest route home, which reminds me that home is no longer my house address. In the past 2 months, home has been the McCandless Township Fairfield Inn, my neighbor's ground floor guest room, my childhood best friend's house, and now Annabelle Everett's. Soon, home will be a new city in a new state with people I've never met and roads I've never driven. Still, I've put off changing the address I have stored in my phone as home for a few more weeks, even if a new family has moved in at that address and my bedroom furniture has been shipped 1,836 miles across the country. Even if your parents don't decide to move before your senior year is over to the middle of a random state in the West, and if you don't plan on leaving Pittsburgh at all, I guarantee your maps will also one day be wrong about the fastest route home. Because home won't always be at your house address. Because maybe home will become your dorm room or the corner of a dimly lit library or the friends you haven't met yet. What you know now as home might just become a place that you visit. So to the juniors and sophomores and freshmen, find and embrace the home you have here and now. Maybe home is your freshman year history class, or maybe home is the sun setting over the turf with your teammates. Maybe it's the window seat in the college counseling office, or the art building, or the group of friends you met in the dining hall. Whatever it is, burn every piece of it into your memory before you go. In just a few weeks, I'll relearn what each turning season looks like from a new bedroom window. I'll relearn the shortcuts to the grocery store and the places you can speed on back roads because the police never check. I'll relearn the way the sun dapples through the foliage in my new yard and the way the first cardinals look when they carry in a new spring. I'll relearn my zip code and my home phone number and my highway numbers. I'll relearn everything I thought I'd always have and everything I've always been. So enjoy the mundane, the Tuesdays, the 2 p.m.s, the Februaries, the 30 minutes between the end of school and the start of sports practice, while your maps still know the right route to take you home. And number 5, add serifs to your S's. I've written my S's with serifs since sophomore year English class because I watched Dr. Barndollar tick the ends of his on the whiteboard and explain that it was to ensure no confusion with writing the number 5. And although I didn't imagine myself ever reading an S as a 5 in my notes, I thought it looked really academic, and I haven't dropped the habit since. I ordered a whole wheat sandwich with ham, provolone, lettuce, tomato, and cucumber almost every day without fail for 2 years straight because it was what the boy in front of me ordered in the sandwich line on my first day at Shady Side when I couldn't figure out how the lunch line worked. I solve exact differential equations in math class by taking 2 integrals at once and comparing them instead of a single integral and a partial derivative because it's the way Bennett Marsh does it on the whiteboard. I order garlic knots every time I go to Italian Village Pizza because one time Cecilia Messner ordered them for the table when I was too busy talking to look at the menu. I listen to International Players' Anthem on car rides to school because Mr. Frankel told us he played it at his wedding ceremony and it was in his top 20 songs of all time. I do the New York Times Daily Sudoku because Raymond Zhang and Miss Myers taught me how to play it one day after class meeting. but I do boxes before rows now because Autumn Casey told me it was her best winning strategy. Lay's chips, pretzels, and a Coke are now my favorite snack at the gas station because Mr. Azak described it as his personal sublime. I play fantasy football because the junior boys in my advisory talked about it every day in the fall. I color code my video clips while editing WSSA videos because it was how George Gruen did it. I carry a roll of purple pre-wrap in my backpack because Callie Davis used to wear it at her soccer games. I eat an apple every day at lunch because Andy Morris always gives me his. I always use the emoji with a mustache and glasses because Annabelle Everett uses it constantly. I stop and look out the window on the 3rd floor of Row every time I go upstairs because Caroline Green once talked about how pretty it is, and I find myself saying bollocks in the middle of math homework because it's Miss Yam's favorite phrase. We become a patchwork of all the people we meet. We are nothing but the sum of every person who's touched our lives in any way. By being here and coming to school each day, you adopt little pieces of the people around you. Maybe you do it intentionally, or maybe their habits slip into your daily routine without warning. If you want, you can simply shut this off. I could still be solving Sudokus by trying to fill the columns first, or take the integral of the left side of the differential the way Miss Yam taught us to, or write my S's with no exciting marks on the end. But as I reflect on my time here, I realize that these things I've adopted from my teachers and friends and classmates are just as much a part of myself as anything else, and I'll forever carry these pieces of who I've met. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to become a mosaic of. Thank you.